why isn't there any more? And I thought, well, there isn't any more because I haven't written any more. So I wrote How the Marquis Got His Coat Back, this very long short story, this novella. And I had so much fun doing that, I started writing a new Neverwhere novel. So there's definitely a strange interplay between the world of radio and the world of what goes on in my head with what I have to write next. I've been starting readings with Chivalry for 25 years now. So much so that actually I stopped starting readings with Chivalry because I worried that everybody who came to hear me read I was started with Chivalry. But one reason I started with Chivalry was it always works. There's not a word wasted in it. It does exactly what it's meant to do. And because I would have such enjoyment reading it. Mrs Whitaker, just the fact that you can take a phrase like "that's nice" and have it mean 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 different things during the course of the story, and it changes. And the use of the word nice, which is such a soft little word, it's considered a weasel word. I definitely had an English teacher who told me I should never use the word nice. And I love it in that story. It means whatever it needs to mean. And it can apply to existential dilemmas. It can apply to a knight in armour showing up at your door. And it can apply to a piece of liver for Thursday's dinner. Part of the fun, I think, with this story is you don't need to know anything really about Galaad going into the story, because you do actually get told everything in shorthand that you need to know that's important about Galaad. You will know that his father was Lancelot du Lac, greatest of all knights, while absolutely out of his mind, and so on and so forth. You get to know all of these little bits of who and what, but they're told to you in the same slightly flat and slightly chatty way that you learn about Mrs Whitaker, and it's a sort of equalizer. Here are the things that are important to Mrs Whitaker, and they include going to Frinton with her husband in the 1950s. And here are the things that are important to Galaad, and they include that his mother was a bit of a witch, and so forth. And I love that. And I love the idea that if you're on a quest for the Holy Grail, it may take you to some very strange places, and you may have to do things that you weren't planning to get the Holy Grail. And I also feel like I was a very young writer when I wrote this story, and I got some things right. I look now at the difference between me pushing 60 and me aged 28, maybe 29 when I wrote it, and I go, I got it right, whether I knew what I was doing or not, whether it was just observation. Somehow, the difference between who you are but the way that you don't change, I got that right. I love short stories. Short stories are amazing for writers and they're great for readers. As a novelist, you can spend literally years on a novel. I've written short stories, not a lot, but every now and then I've written a short story in a day. Written a lot of short stories in a week or less. You start out and at the end of the week you have a finished short story and it's all done. And there's an enormous feeling of accomplishment. And as a reader, the idea of being able to go into a magical, wonderful, different world, to experience all the joys that literature can give you and be done in time for tea, is also a magical sort of delight. So I love short stories. I also love what you can do with short stories on the radio and in audio. We're doing something very odd with Chivalry. We're kind of breaking the rules because the idea of a narrated short story is something that everybody's very familiar with, and the idea of a dramatized story is something that everybody's very familiar with. But here we're actually sticking to the text of the story. This is the story I wrote, as read, by Glenda Jackson, who also plays Mrs Whitaker. And we have wonderful actors coming in and being the other members of the cast. So it's a slightly sort of hybrid medium that in many ways is an experiment, but it's also partly because we can. It's